So let's talk about Ghost in the Shell, and let's talk about Iron Fist. So I really like Ghost in the Shell, the original anime, and I really like all the series since. I've watched every single version, Japanese and English. I've watched the original movie, the touched up version 2.0. I've watched the sequels. I've seen all the series, Standalone Complex, and then the new one, Arise, and whatever comes in between. The SAG, whatever the heck stuff. It was good. It was good. I love it all. And I went around on YouTube and other stuff like IGN, and I checked out the reviews for the new Ghost in the Shell, and I was like, well, this is going to be bad. I mean, this is going to be a horrible, horrible film. So I went to go see it, thinking it was going to be a horrible film. And the reason I went to go see it is because I was just like, let me just see. Let's just see what's going to happen, right? And it was good. It was really good. But I was like, but there's all this stuff. And I know some of the problems too, and I'll get into that in a second. But I was like, this is actually really good. Let me go back and watch the original untouched version of Ghost in the Shell. And the original version, not 2.0, the original version is boring. When I first watched it as a kid, when I was 16, it was interesting. And I had to rewatch it a few times to kind of get the philosophy and what was going on. But watching it as a 36-year-old, it is a boring freaking, it is boring. Ghost in the Shell with Scarlett Johansson is not boring at all. Okay, but what about the story? What about the philosophy? Well, the philosophy is definitely dumbed down for the American movie. I will say that. And the action's definitely turned up. But the pacing is much better. And the visuals of the live action film are beautiful. Probably the most beautiful, most stunning visuals I've seen in any movie. In fact, I was trying to think of a movie that had better visuals and I just couldn't think of one. But what about the whitewashing? What about the racism? Oh, it's there. It's there. That's not made up. There were definitely way more actors, way more supporting cast and extras that could have been Asian actors, and preferably Japanese actors. I will say that. Most definitely that should have been in the film. But the original movie never says New Tokyo. The original movie is, I think, in Prague or Paris, where there are Japanese iconography. And I just watched it. I just watched it like 5 minutes ago. I just finished watching the original movie. And just to refresh my memory. And yeah, they're talking about American agents in this unnamed waterfield, Venice-like province. And in this land, Bato is German. So, yeah, man, like the original movie is very multicultural. So it's not as if that doesn't exist in the original movie. Okay. But what about Scarlett Johansson? Well, there is that one scene that was leaked. That photo, it's in the movie, and it's bad. It looks bad. They do de-age her, which that could answer some of the look, but it also looked like they kind of, and I don't know the right word for this, so if this is the wrong term, forgive me. They look like they Asianed her up a little bit. And I was telling a friend of mine, it's kind of like The exact scene, the way that it plays out. If you've seen the movie Argo, Ben Affleck's playing a Hispanic person. Now, as a Hispanic person, I can tell you, we don't look like Ben Affleck. But it would be like, while he's playing a Hispanic person in Argo, as if they cut to a scene where he was taking a nap at his house, and for some reason he was wearing a sombrero, and he had a handlebar mustache, and a poncho. That's how bad the scene was in Ghost in the Shell. It was bad. I saw it and I was like, wow, that's I believe it's called Yellowface, and they definitely hint at it. There's also a twist at the end that also has kind of a I guess it would be Asian exploitation feel to it. And it doesn't tie in the movie as well as they think it does, as the filmmakers seem to think it does. But it's a very good film, and I definitely liked it. It's I would personally give it a 8, or even I wouldn't go as far as a 9, but I'd give it an 8 out of 10 or a 4 out of 5 if that score makes more sense to people. But I'm pairing this with Iron Fist because there's an equal problem with Iron Fist, which is I really like Iron Fist. I watched it in 2 nights, and a lot of people were saying that it was horrible. No, it's slow. It's not horrible. It's a very slow, methodical show. And it's not the greatest show of all time. It's definitely not the greatest superhero show, but it's on par with the first season of Supergirl. It's on par, definitely better than the first season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's better than the 3rd season and 4th season of Arrow, I can tell you that, and I love Arrow. And the 3rd and 4th seasons were horrible. So no, I mean, it's Iron Fist is a good superhero show. It's just, slow and methodical and a little inconsistent. But and I'm pairing this with Ghost in the Shell. When I was 16 and I first saw Ghost in the Shell, it blew my mind. At 36, not that difficult to parse through. When I was a kid, I loved TV shows, late night TV shows like Forever Night and Highlander and Renegade. These were not good shows, but I loved them. I watched them all the time. I watched them in reruns. I even bought the Highlander series when it came out on both VHS and DVD. Yeah, these were not great shows. I love Farscape. I liked a show called Brimstone. I liked The Crow, the TV show with Martha Koskos. These are not high intellectual shows, but they're good. They're enjoyable. They have fandom. And I don't know why people aren't giving Ghost in the Shell or Iron Fist that chance to build that fandom. There's a pre-hate to it. And the only thing I can figure is the racism charge. And while there is some whitewashing and there is some latent racial overtones, undertones in Ghost in the Shell, there's really not that in Iron Fist. The character is white in the comics, so it makes sense that he would be white in the show. And yes, the guy who played the Drunken Master would have made a much more compelling main character. That's fine. That's true. But the part of the problem with Iron Fist is that they downplayed the Asian and Chinese and Japanese influences. I think it would have been awesome to have seen true Okinawan and Japanese martial arts, to see samurai and jujitsu and karate actually go up against kung fu. And there are many versions of kung fu. There are many styles of kung fu. It would have been very interesting to have Danny actually go through kung fu and do kung fu on screen. That would have been amazing. The closest it ever got to real kung fu was the Drunken Master fight. And though the kendo movements of Colleen Wing was interesting, they never really played into the fact that here was a Mandarin, someone of Mandarin descent, embracing a Japanese martial art. This would have been a great and wonderful thing to delve into, and the show never goes there because it's scared to go there. And while I do think there are things that Ghost in the Shell could fix that would have made it more palatable to the people who don't like it, like there's a great scene in Rise or Risen where the Major is choosing a face. I think having that scene in the opening and the end of this movie, of this live action movie, would have gone a long way. I think letting or having more actors of Asian descent, specifically of Japanese heritage, would go a long way. I don't think there was any reason for the two garbage men to be American. They definitely could have been Japanese. But, again, in the original movie, in the anime, they specifically call out America in the cartoon. So there's no reason not to have that in the movie. As for Danny Rand and Iron Fist, the problems with that show, other than it not being to some critics' taste, were problems of the lead actor and problems of lack of building up of some of the minor villains. The major villains were completely built up. Ward is completely realized. He's a fully rounded and interesting character. He just starts off bland. You have to get to the end to realize how interesting he is, because he comes full circle. He's a hero, and this is spoiled, but he's a hero by the end of the series. And so I don't agree that it's bad. I do not like the way the hand was handled. I will admit that was weak. But I love the boardroom stuff. I love the business stuff, and I wanted more of it. And I know a lot of people, that's their main complaint, outside of Danny being white. But the character's white. The Major, the character has a Japanese first name in the original cartoon. I'm trying to remember if they use her first name in the rest of the series, like in Standalone Complex or in Innocence or in any of the other stuff that's out there. But definitely in the cartoon, in the original, she has a first name. I would have liked to have seen that built up more. But Bato was way more interesting in the live action movie than he is in the cartoon, in the original cartoon. Later on, he gets more interesting. So, and again, comparing the two, the manga, which you can get off Amazon and at Barnes & Noble right now, is a very different beast than the anime or the movie. The movie is a love letter to the original anime. While with Iron Fist, the only Danny Rand Iron Fist comic book that's ever been popular is when he's paired with Luke Cage. And they weren't doing that. So a lot of that was missing. So what you ended up having was a very nice love letter to a character that's not all that beloved in the comics. And I think that's the difference here. While I do think both series have a problem with whitewashing, and both series have a problem with the way the adaptations are held, Ghost in the Shell does not have the problems that many of the critics try to claim it has. Well, Iron Fist, though much more enjoyable than the critics are willing to give credit for, those problems are legitimate. They're there. A great negative criticism on it would be IGN. IGN had a really good one with whatever their TV show podcast is. But anyway, I'm kind of going over time. Peace, love, like, subscribe. Name is Ramon, channel's Alpha 4. Comment down below. Peace.